Well, welcome. Tonight we're going to meet somebody new to the area and somebody not so new. But we're going to talk about an effort in Milford that you don't think about very often until something is going not according to plan. And the last decade or so, we faced some new challenges. One of them was the totes, the trash, the infamous trash buckets, which I have to admit I was one of the biggest skeptics of all times on those, and we're going to see a different light tonight. But why don't we start with introductions?
Yeah, Paul Mazzucchelli. I'm a member of the Milford Board of Health.
Yeah, you're not the new one.
No, I'm not the new one. We have our new one right over here, our new Director of Public Health, Amanda Wilson. And she's been with us for a few months now, and we got her from the city of Worcester. She was the Director of Housing and Environmental Services for the city of Worcester, which is our big sister. I mean, it has the same demographics and same contour of what we have in the town of Milford. And we felt as though she'd be a perfect fit. If she could handle Worcester, she can handle Milford. And again, she's used to local public health, which is very important because there's many people in public health, but they're either doing research or some sort of investigations and office work for the Department of Public Health or epidemiology and whatnot. Usually one basic type of situation that they're involved with, where when you're in local public health, you're dealing with a variety of issues, from housing inspections to restaurant inspections, to nuisance complaints, to septics, to wells, to various clinics that we have, everything we need to do to keep our public and our residents and our guests safe and have good public health practices. So Amanda's experienced in that, and that's what's important when you come into a local Board of Health, is to have that type of experience.
Now,
in
Amanda,
education.
what's your background when you say Director of Public Health? What makes you a Director of Public Health?
Education-wise, I graduated from UMass Boston. I did start at Worcester State and in the public health track right out of high school. And then I went on to get my master's in public administration. Because I enjoyed that, being a civil servant, I was already with the city of Worcester when I started my master's, and I enjoyed the giving back to the public and educating the public so much that I wanted to pursue my education in that respect. But I've certainly public health courses that I encountered, and I started off in the city of Worcester as an inspector, so I've have that boots on the ground experience with doing curbside trash enforcement to housing inspections, food inspections, hazardous materials, water quality, sort of really running the gamut of what is public health.
So there's a series of courses and an educational track to get into public health.
There is, through in the program that I went through at Worcester State University, there's a public health education track that I did major in.
You know, we're so spoiled because I used to get a kick out of when the Board of Health came on the show. And was it Lenny was the youngest?
Yes.
He was the youngster. He'd only been on for 30 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So you get kind of comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and if somebody said, well, what does it take to be the head of the Board of Health? You got to be like Paul. Whatever that means, you got to be like Paul.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like I said, public health, you know, sometimes they're victims of their own success. It's a silent organization. You don't really think about it that much until sickness comes. For instance, when just a little while ago, a few short years ago, when COVID came, I mean, the amount of clinics that we had to have, the amount of education and awareness that we had to put out, the mask requirements, the enforcement of those as well, all came from our local Board of Health.
You know, it's funny because the practical side of that, because there was a point where, was it the N95 masks?
Mhm.
You couldn't get them.
That's
I
right.
couldn't.
That's
No.
right.
I actually had one of my customers from Shanghai sent a box of them, 2,000 of them,
Wow.
because he said, I heard that you can't get these masks. We can get them here, so he sent us a case of
Mhm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very happy to get
Sure.
them,
Yes.
Yeah.
because I wanted to meet the regulation and the recommendations, but the little flimsy masks didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Right.
Right.
What, rather than ask you what's the biggest challenge, the totes, the emotional challenge of getting Milford to accept totes. We over it?
Some are. I think there'll still always be residents who experience frustration with the system in general. But I think the key and the important part is the Board of Health has listened and listened to feedback from residents, whether that tote it's too big, it's too small. So we've really tried to accommodate the residents and meet their needs but also meeting the needs of the town and our disposal requirements with the state and federal government as well.
Well, the first time the old director came to us at the FinCom, talking about totes,
Mhm.
I was not a proponent.
Right.
I thought of these the cute little totes that people have. And I'm thinking, come Christmas, come Thanksgiving, how am I going to fit my trash into
That's
these?
right. Yeah.
Because the totes we have are bigger than most towns, right?
They are 96 gallon, which is the largest that you could get for a curbside tote. And most of our surrounding municipalities either have a 35 gallon or maybe
65.
eventually they'll have a 65 eventually in some certain municipalities. But our surrounding ones have 35 gallons. And there's also a bag fee or a user's fee or both. Milford is still one of the only, I think, 3 or 4 municipalities in the Commonwealth that still pays for their curbside service off the tax base. And that's pretty unusual today.
But Paulie, it's a tax. It's not like when they say it's a fee.
Right.
Wait a minute. How do you not generate trash?
You don't.
You
I mean,
can
you always
minimize
do.
it,
You
but
you always do.
You're
Yeah.
going to have
Right.
some
Yeah.
trash.
Yes.
So telling me that it's an option,
Mm-hmm.
unless I'm one of those people that snuck out late at night and had the back of their pickup truck hit bumps and dump trash
It dumps
in the-
all over the
on Asylum Street.
Asylum Street, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tax one way or another.
Exactly. But again, but these municipalities that have a bag fee or user's fee or both are also paying the tax. So they're more or less paying extra for this as well. One of the reasons why, too, Albert, that I wanted to mention, too, to the folks that are listening and yourself, is the reason why we went to this tote program is because the people in the industry, your larger companies that could handle a municipality like Milford, like Harvey or Republic Waste or Waste Management, companies like that would be able bidders if they were to bid on the town of Milford. Their insurance companies really won't cover them anymore, their liability insurance companies, because there's too many injuries being reported for those individuals that used to come out of the truck and throw the
Well,
containers on
I
there.
remember what totally flipped my opinion was when we were talking about 3 companies refusing to bid
Right.
if you didn't have these
And,
totes.
and that's what we were confronted with. I mean, when we
And
try
that-
to, they go, do you have the automated pickup? We say, no, clunk, they'd
And
hang up the
Harvey
phone.
said, well, we've been working with Milford for a long time. We'll give you 1 year to transition, and we'll only charge you a $250,000 surtax. I said, only $250,000? Do you know what I could do with $250,000
sure.
for the
Yeah.
kids and the seniors in town?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, there was no choice, but I'm really happy. I don't like pushing the 90 million gallon tank down my driveway, but I'll do that versus having that little tiny cute tote that I've seen in towns.
Right. But
Right.
it gives the residents the option to use the whole 96 gallons if they have to,
Yeah.
without paying any extra by filling up a 35-gallon container and buying an extra bag.
And you can buy bags in Milford?
You can. As of right now, bags are available at Shaw's on Prospect Street, Stop and Shop, and Big Y on Medway.
Oh, okay.
Medway Road, and then with the Noria gas stations, they're available there, and then Main Street Market, Milford Market, right on Main Street
Now,
as well.
We've got a picture, I believe it's of East Main Street,
Mm-hmm.
that we'll put up.
Yeah, thank you.
It looks like it's staged.
And it's not, and it's not, because Albert, you've been here all your life, and I'm sure you've been down East Main Street on a Monday when their regular scheduled pickup is, prior to the containers, and you see what it looked like, especially during that area, near the Sacred Heart area, okay? I mean, it was like a tornado
Don't
hit
get
it.
mad at me, but it looked like that part of Worcester that I don't like to go to.
And you
No
could see the
offense
change.
taken.
Now, obviously, there's the benefit of cost.
Mhm.
Because when 3 out of 4 carriers won't cover you,
Mhm.
you know you're at the mercy of whatever
Exactly, yep.
somebody will do. How about health-wise? I mean, when I look down that picture that we're going to show, rodents.
Yeah, and we used to get a decent amount of calls for concerned residents, what they saw rodents and whatnot. That is down to almost zero now. And because, like, you got to understand the biology of a rodent, too. I mean, why they go in a neighborhood is because there's a sanitation problem. For any type of pest, they need food, water, and shelter. Water and shelter they can get anywhere. They can even lick the dew off the grass during the summer and spring and fall. So they don't need water. Shelter, they can dig a hole or find a hole in a rock or wherever. But food is what they're after. So if there is a rodent problem in the neighborhood, then there's a sanitation problem in that neighborhood where there's garbage out, there's improper disposal of rubbish, improper storage of rubbish, or something like that that's causing those rodents to be in that neighborhood. Now, with these containers, they're rodent-proof. And they have that high cover, they have a very tight cover, they're that hard plastic that no one can chew through.
That cover's heavy.
It's heavy. It's
Any
heavy.
rodent that can lift it, I'm going to call him
Well,
sir.
it'd be Mighty Mouse if that could happen, right? But on the other hand, and that's what's keeping the rodents away. A lot of times you would find, like, if you see like some areas such as that East Main Street area, where they have the water, they have the tributary of the Charles River right there too, right in their backyard. And you go by there if they put out the rubbish during the night for the morning pickup, you see like gnaw holes in the rubbish bags. You know, now with those containers, as you can see, it's aesthetically pleasing and it's public health good too.
Let me bring this back. We got the emotional side out.
Mm-hmm.
What is the mission of the Milford Health Department?
To protect the public. To protect the public, to protect and educate from communicable diseases and essentially safety issues. There are, the essence of public health is prevention and public safety as well.
Now, years ago, we ran into the TB, I don't know if I call it an issue, but we never had any TB incidents, and I can remember.
Right.
And all of a sudden we did.
Right.
And it's easy to blame the newcomers. It's all them, there are people that aren't like us. But realistically, it's not anything they did that was wrong, it's just they came from areas where
It
they
was
weren't
prevalent.
vaccinated and.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
took steps
Yes, we did. In other words, what we did, Albert, is we found as though that there was a lot of overcrowding, a lot of illegal conversions back then as well. And we found that people were living in various rooms instead of where we have a two-family house. You have a kitchen, a living room, a few bedrooms. They were making those living rooms and dining rooms into bedrooms. So you had that overcrowding as well with, and they weren't all related. You know, they were strangers to each other living in this type of a situation. And at the time, I remember checking back then with disease records, and we haven't had a tuberculosis case since 1949. All of a sudden, in 2005, we have 9, which is anything over its normal prevalence or incidence is an epidemic. So right away, we said we got to do something about it, and the only way we could do something about it is to what would cause, like you said, it's a respiratory illness. It's caused through people transmitting through a cough, a sneeze, heavy talking, whatever, and closeness, and that's what overcrowding would generate. And right away, we said as though we need an occupancy bylaw. You know, there's too many landlords taking advantage of these new residents that are coming in from their country, and they're making a ton of money on them, and they're also causing health problems, a situation that's considered a health hazard. And that's where the Board of Health had to come in, above and beyond their general mandated responsibilities, is we took it upon ourselves to have that occupancy bylaw.
Now, I can't think of a worse thing to do, or if I want to spread the disease, a better thing to do than overcrowd people with respiratory diseases, put them in cold, dank units. I mean, we'll show a picture, these illegal conversions we talk about.
Right, and those, the ones that you're going to see, that folks are going to see, are the current ones. These were just taken, what, a few months ago, Amanda?
Yeah, some as recent as just a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago.
Well, the one I got a kick out of is there's a garage with a front door.
Yeah,
Right.
How much more blatant can you be?
that particular one is a two-family home, and what the owner did, who's a non-owner, he lives out of town. Okay, he doesn't live in the property, and he also converted the cellar into 2 apartments, the garage into 2 or 3 apartments, and from what we understand, according to interviewing of the tenants and whatnot, and adding up what they're paying for rent per month, you know, it's close to $900 a month extra, besides the 2 legal apartments. And of course, they don't meet code. Like that's a 2-family house. It was plumbed and wired for a 2-family home.
That's the part that scares me the most, Paul.
You're right.
Is you wire a house with 200 amps, typical house.
Right, which is pretty high.
Which, you know, I've seen them with 100 and some amps.
Yeah, right.
But that's meant to take care of one kitchen and the surrounding
And the
house.
outlets and whatnot, you know, your refrigerator.
All of a sudden,
yeah.
you put in 4 kitchens.
Right, right.
You're just asking for a fire.
And not only that, Albert, but the way they're putting them in with no permits. In other words, we would check with building department. Was a permit taken off for that? No. So you're having people doing electrical work, plumbing work, carpentry work with no permits.
You mean I can't go down to the building inspector and say, I'd like to pull an illegal conversion permit?
Sure, I think that we should have one now. There's so many of them. But we're working on them, really.
But you start,
Yeah.
I mean, when your families, my families came in, you had big families, 8, 9 people
Right.
in a house. And people always say, well, you always had the Portuguese, the Italians, with a lot of, but it was one family.
Right, exactly.
So they had one kitchen.
Right.
I mean, again, some of the pictures we have show locked cupboards and names on cupboards. And you can tell it's not one family in there.
Right.
So they're going to have hot plates and everything in their rooms.
That's what they have, the little refrigerators, the hot plates. We have a major concern from our fire department who go on medical calls, and they end up seeing these particular illegal conversions. And they said there's even some with propane tanks inside the house trying to fire up a stove. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's something that, like I mentioned before, when I came to you guys at the Finance Committee to ask for extra funds to start this program again, I said, you know, there's a distinct possibility that if this keeps up and people are getting more and more lax, someone could have a good chance of dying in a fire. You know, where it's going to be hard for a fire department to save
Well,
people.
It just, overcrowding exacerbates the issues when you think of fire department running engine one up for a medical call.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having 2 to 3 cars, if you were doing well, you maybe had 4 cars to your house.
Mm.
Now you got 4 families, there's
Mhm.
8 cars.
Right,
They park them across from each other,
right,
and I always get scared that engine one can't make it up the street.
right. Yeah, yeah.
So you're putting the people who are living there in severe danger.
You are right.
Mhm.
Right.
There are many facets of the dangers, from public communicable disease to the issues that will plague our first responders, to and to residents even within the apartments themselves. If you are, we're seeing, I'm renting this room, well, it's a family in a room next to somebody who they have no idea who they are in the next room. In the case of an emergency, the basis for a lot of the occupancy laws are, I'm going to save myself and my family and not worry about the person who's next to me. I'm not going to necessarily notify that person. You're not living as a family unit. You're really in your own silo there by yourself, and it's every man for themselves. In the case of an emergency, those are the between the electrical hazards, with seeing individuals that have microwaves and refrigerators and toaster ovens inside the 4 walls, and an air conditioner or a space heater, and they're not necessarily, there's not enough plugs for that many appliances, and they, you have things that are drawing a lot of electricity.
So you put space heaters on a power strip that's meant for
Right.
15 amps,
That's what they're doing.
Right.
and you got 2 or 3 of those, and they're drawing 40 amps.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you see those
Right.
types of, see in the news with those, fires starting from space heaters or from a fan, from an air conditioner, things that are going to overheat, and those are the real, dangerous concerns that we see. In addition to, there's more trash accumulation, there's more vehicles, you have a higher chance of people having issues with pests and not really properly being taken care of. So,
Well, isn't one of the tells of overcrowding that you turn around and say, we got we get 2 totes per family? Well, you got 4 families in a house.
Well, that came up, and that's how our department caught on and did more inspections because of that as well, and caught more, because when the totes were being delivered, the Board of Health would be getting calls saying, we need 2 more totes. They would cross-reference that and say, but this is a 2-family, you got your totes. Says, no, we have 2 more apartments in the back. And seriously, that's how we went out, and we got the building department, the Board of Health, and we went out and did our inspections and our
It's like
enforcement.
the house with the front door on the garage.
Yep,
Did you not think somebody's going to see it?
I know.
in that case, they certainly took a lot of effort to hide that as well, because in front of that door was the original pull-down garage
It was.
door
That's right.
to hide that door. So they were really trying to keep it under wraps.
No, nobody's going to notice that you lift the garage door
To
to
open
open
up the French door.
Right.
Now, the other thing that would be a tell is when you have 6 cars or 7 cars trying to park on the same street.
Right, right. You know, one of our best inspectors too are the our residents. They're the ones who would find these conditions and report it, such as the 6, 7 cars, or seeing the tenant, the new tenant, pick up the original garage door and open up the French door to go in his apartment. You know, I mean, these are the ways. This is how we found out. Between that and the fire department, and as well as the delivering of the bins, we've got overloaded with a lot of these concerns.
You know, and I have some empathy for the people who are trying to get started.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, I remember the Portuguese families coming over, the Italian families, where it would be overcrowded when they moved in. The whole family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 6, 8 people in one house. And then as the children got a little older, they split off and bought their own house, or the family chipped in and helped them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so you have some empathy for the people who put their heads down, work hard, pay their taxes, and try and make a better life for their family.
Sure.
But the neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the quality of life. You bought a house on Lee Street.
Mm-hmm.
I used to know somebody who lived on Lee Street.
Yep. Yep. Number 19.
You know, and you turn around and say, if all of a sudden there's a house with 8 people and there's 8 cars,
Mhm.
you're going to affect the quality of the life
course
of
it does.
everybody.
It sure does. It sure does. There's overload with congestion, cars, rubbish, noise. You know, I mean, it's just the quality of life is just it depreciates when you have that type of setup in a neighborhood. And again, it's not only a health hazard, but it's also a nuisance that's affecting a whole neighborhood. You know, hence that's why we had the sports courts regulation, and now with the overcrowding regulation is coming back again very soon. We're going to, Amanda, if you can more or less tell Albert, because he was on the finance committee too when we went to get that money, where we are with that.
We are, at this point, we're going out to bid to hire an outside contractor to look at the properties that have changed hands over the last about 4 or 5 years and get those properties inspected, do the drawings for them, so when we go and say, okay, it's your annual inspection time, and our drawing is showing that that wall that's now there wasn't there before, or that wall was taken down and now this is a bedroom where it was a bathroom and the bathroom's on this side, and those are the
Or there's
pieces
padlocks on the doors to the bedroom.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
individual locks on every single door. Really looking at, because COVID has really put all of our efforts toward COVID enforcement and the clinics that were run, we need this jump start to really get on all of the properties that are need to come into compliance with the occupancy bylaw. And by using the outside contractor, that will be their focus on a subset of properties that we know that have transferred ownership. And then we will look at those properties and get them back on the rolls and getting their inspections on an annual basis. So we will be able to get into the properties and ensure that the overcrowding is not taking place, that the homes are safe as they're being rented out to individuals.
Now, let me put you on the spot. Some of the urban myths that came out with the occupancy. First of all, you were the head of it.
Mm-hmm.
You hate immigrants.
Yeah, that's right. That's
I mean, I get
yeah.
such a kick out of,
Yeah.
if you support this occupancy bylaw, you hate immigrants.
Mm.
And you turn around and say, do you know who you're talking to? First of all, we're all immigrants.
Yeah.
Just how far back do you go?
Mm.
But the second thing was, this was a way of Milford government developing revenue streams by these inspection fees.
Yeah, it didn't hardly cover anything, really.
Right, that and there is no inspection fee. So it's not a revenue generator for,
But didn't you have to pay $50 a year?
At first, yeah.
At first,
because
and-
to get everything else settled, and we needed that to offset the pay, that we had to pay for the contractor. And that's,
But again, the myth was you were doing that, Polly, to generate revenue for the town.
yeah, no, it was of public health importance.
I mean, did it even cover the cost?
No,
no,
it did not.
no, certainly not.
You know, so the idea of, we just put more money towards inspections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there wasn't, yeah,
It's not to make money.
no. It's to protect the public health and safety of not only the residents of that particular property, but also the neighborhood as well. And our first responders.
Urban myth number 3, no matter what you do, you have no power to enforce these laws. If you come into a house and you find out they have,
Mm-hmm.
and again,
Yeah, it's part of this code, it's part of the state housing code.
but what do? What can you do?
What can we do is we can enforce it, we can fine, and if they don't pay the fine, we can go to housing court. We've been very busy in housing court.
That was
Brian
the
and Jerry
question.
have.
We could. Have we done it?
Yes, we have.
Because that's what I think people don't see.
Yeah.
They call you and say, remember the house that had blight on Lawrence Street?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, you guys started going up there and trying to get it fixed.
Yeah.
People can see that.
Yeah.
But they don't see enforcement of the occupancy law.
Yeah, and it takes time as well. I mean, you just don't get your case the next day. You know, I mean, it takes time, it takes legal work for our town council. And we used to be able to go to, I think we still can, but I know Brian and Jerry, a lot of times when it comes to this, likes to use the actual housing court in Worcester. So we have to see, you know, a lot of times we go to the housing court in Worcester. I used to just go to a show cause hearing right in our Milford court at one time, and it used to work okay. But you get more of a bite from housing court, more of a fine, and the judge is pretty well in tune to what
They're
we're
pretty
what
well
we're
versed
going
in what
through.
the alternatives are.
They really are, right.
And also understanding that if we have a cooperative property owner who perhaps they've rented to an occupant, and then that occupant has then subsequently rented out rooms to individuals. And
So it's
and
not just the owner.
No.
Correct.
We rented to one
Correct.
just a
I
little
rent the
while
house
ago.
from you, and then I split it up 4 ways.
Right.
The owner had no idea, and the owner was living out of town. And when we informed him, he was shocked. One lady from Milford rented the whole house. What was it, a
It was
four-fam?
a 4-family, 2 on each side.
Right, rented the whole house. And then what she did was sublet it as a rooming house.
Oh, jeez.
I'm
I
talking.
can see as an owner, I'd be
I'm talking from.
paranoid
Yes.
that I'm still responsible for what happens in my house.
In that, of course, he was responsible. And from what I understand, according to our records, it wasn't only living rooms in other areas besides bedrooms being used as bedrooms, but hallways were as well as
Yeah,
as well as a cellar.
There's
As well as
a
a
picture
cellar.
you showed me. It looked like somebody put a bed in a hallway.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the pictures you have.
So my 1-room apartment is a hallway,
Mm-hmm.
and I put my hot plate and everything.
And now, God forbid, there's an emergency, and first responders or someone has to get into that or out of that house, you gotta run, they need that hallway to get out.
And there's a bed in the hallway. I've got to go around.
You gotta go around it. I mean, like I said, it's something that, you know, it's a problem that we're aware of and we're addressing it. And again, hats off to our Board of Health office. Like I said, they're working like crazy to do this. They're constantly going out on inspections and citing various violations and trying to enforce
How
as
many
fast as we
people
can.
are the foot soldiers of the Board of Health?
We have 3 plus Amanda.
So we do have 3 people out
We
there.
have 3, and
Beating the bushes.
Yes.
and out of the 3 that are the inspectors, one is just geared toward our food establishments. because we have so many of them.
We haven't even talked about that. That used to be the big thing with Lenny and crew, is talking about all the inspections for the restaurants.
Right, right.
You still do those multiple times a year? Or,
Yes, we do.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
and how do we fare?
We have an excellent food inspector who is extremely adept at really understanding and teaching really small business owners on how to do the right thing, how to be in compliance, and really run a business that's going to be successful, but also be in adherence with all of the public health regulations.
She was also too went to school for food service as well, culinary arts. So she knows the actual workings of a kitchen, as well as an instructor for food sanitation.
Because it's amazing what we take for granted in our house.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't think of if I've got to serve how many hundreds of people today. It's a little different.
Right, right.
Unless you have a big family like yours and it's Christmas and Thanksgiving.
You know, you think about it, if you tried telling Cookie, this is what you can use for ingredients.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here. But if I'm running a business, I think I'd have to make the call if I may not be able to use the ingredients I want all the time. I may have to make sure that I can put a dish together and still make money at it.
Right, right. And education is, it's a fundamental of public health, and education of what all of those aspects of making sure that your sinks are plumbed correctly, because you're looking at, commercial equipment versus, your home equipment. And a lot of times people who want to be entrepreneurs, they tend to look at food businesses. And so we have a lot of first-time business owners who want to take over other businesses. We have a lot of places that change hands, and it's re-educating individuals, making sure that they obtain the education and safety trainings that they are required to have as well.
Well, I remember you were telling me that there's regulations on, you have to have somebody who is trained in food safety.
Right.
all
One
times.
on each shift.
At all times, there
At
has
all
to be
times,
somebody.
right.
Yes.
So if you hire a high school kid and they're not cooking right or something,
Someone's going to be acting as
The
their
food safety
as their
manager.
food safety coordinator to guide them.
how many restaurants in Milford?
What do you think?
I think for actual food establishments, it's just at right about 100. But that's not all of the convenience stores
In markets,
and markets.
Oh, yeah, those hot dog rollers and all that.
all the corner
Right,
stores,
right. Those are,
you know,
those all have perishable foods that those
they
are
need
also,
inspections.
whether it's gas stations to, to your full service establishments, they're all inspected.
I'd say in
And
all.
the schools, the
in all,
public
it's
schools.
close to 130,
Yes,
yeah.
Well, the schools, we got Carla. I would never worry about any standard of food safety or
Right.
food quality if
But-
it's under Carla.
But all have to be inspected,
right,
you know?
right.
So, if she's in charge
We
of it.
still issue her a permit, though.
Well, no, you have to do it, but, because you don't have all Carlas in every town.
No.
I know, that's for
But,
darn
when
sure.
you look at some of the restaurants, what are the biggest issues you run into?
For restaurants, sometimes it can be the refrigeration unit is not keeping accurate temperature, which is a big concern because it's a potential for foodborne illness. If you have foods that are supposed to be kept at 40 degrees and it's 48 degrees, so and sometimes that's because of the time of day, and people are in like a a reach-in cooler and opening and closing those doors and making sure that the freezers are actually freezing the food and the refrigeration is kept appropriate. And, really when it's a lot of maintenance too, when things break, making sure that they get taken care of from whether it's a leak or, ensuring that there's paper towels and soap for hand wash sinks. So employees are also being safe with handling ready-to-eat foods for the public.
My God, you think about it, when we had Mike Newstein come in from the medical center and talk about infectious diseases, the biggest message he had was wash your hands.
Right, right.
So yeah, if you don't have the right soap and water and drying agent,
And the right temperature of hot water to wash your hands, then that's how so many,
so we have 130 restaurants.
At least that has to be inspected.
How many fail?
Be it a full service or a market.
Or let me go the other way. How many pass out of 130?
eventually they all pass. But we work with them to ensure that they get their restaurant up to what the standards are. And really we're it's making sure that they're doing food handling properly, from thawing foods to cooling foods. So we do, like I said, a lot of education around that, and so people understand what has to take place. I mean, certainly we come out of locations with some pretty low scores, but we're back, if not the next day, because of something that needed to be done that, within 24 hours, or we're back in 48 hours, following up, making sure that business owner is making that correction.
So if I've got a restaurant and you see something that's below code, you'll work with me as long as I'm cooperative.
Yes, we're not gonna immediately shut you down,
Stop eating, get out.
Right. Not a la Gordon Ramsay. We haven't had any issues like that, but certainly we've, had to close establishments for them to come into compliance. It's making sure that, and that was, getting all of the staff educated and getting, making sure that they're, you're eliminating any source of foodborne illness.
So you've actually closed restaurants and said, okay, here are the 4 things that are totally egregious. Unless you deal with these, we're not letting you serve food.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Now, I would think that most owners would be willing to work with you because they got a lot of money in their investment. And shutting them down, well, you still have to heat the place, you still have all the bills.
Right.
So I would think they'd be more than anxious to work with you to open the doors again.
Yes, there's definitely more of a, there's a better compliance rate overall with people who have those businesses because they have that vested interest. You don't have that, we have their permit. And, we want to make sure that they keep their permit. And when we look at issues with housing, there isn't that sort of carrot and stick type of relationship because people will have, we've seen that, they let their properties become a mess, but if it, depending on what type of business, they want to make sure that outward appearance is much better because that will draw people in. So it can go, it can really be night and day.
Is it easier to work with chains or individual owners?
There, I would say it's equal. In some of the chains, you have some long-standing managers, and that's what's really important. And so that way you have consistency amongst your staff and amongst safety regulations. So that information is really passed on to all of the line cooks, That's really key. You have that built in when you have the smaller establishments.
Well, I would think that if I'm running a Burger World, I don't want to mention any names, but a Burger World franchise, the owners, the corporate execs, are going to want to make sure that your Burger World, Paul's Burger World, my Burger World, all feels the same and has the same quality.
Right, right.
But if I own it, if it's not company owned, if I own the franchise, how much leverage do they have on me?
There's still branding that is kind of is an overarching piece where it's still important that they maintain that the operation as all of the other Burger Worlds in the area
But
as well.
do you very often have to go above me as Burger World store number 3800 to Burger World Regional?
Only on occasion, and sometimes that would maybe be an issue where they don't own the building that they're in, and maybe there's an issue that, like a new roof or something like that, that might take a decision at the corporate level versus somebody at the store level to handle.
This is a tough question, but how do I know? You're sitting there saying, Cookie, we're going out to dinner tonight. How do I know what restaurant is having problems, or do I?
You can, there's certain situations or certain things that are in that restaurant that you can pick up. For instance, like how clean is the table? How clean is the restroom? How clean are the servers? Which is very important with hygiene. Hygiene is very important. That's one of the basic reasons why foodborne illness is spread through someone that's unsanitary, someone that has poor hygiene. Is the servers sick? Are they sniffling? Are they sneezing?
But Paulie, I'm in the restaurant by then.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any chat room or something that, obviously some of the Milford chat rooms would say, don't go there, they don't.
Right.
Right.
One of the things that we did just last week, Albert, is the Daily News called us for once, and.
And they wanted to hear about Milford?
Which we were trying to say, who's this? But anyway, and our food service director, Ann Amanda, did give them our most recent inspections, and they put it in the paper.
Huh.
And Amanda and the staff at the Board of Health decided that they're going to be doing that quite frequently. When they have a certain number of establishments that were recently inspected, they're going to give to the newspaper.
And I would think you'd want it both ways.
Mhm.
If I'm savvy or somebody and I want to take pride in my restaurant,
Mhm.
I'd want it published that I was inspected.
Sure.
In my line of work
Right.
in
It's free
biotech,
advertisement, too.
when the FDA inspects you, it's something you actually want.
Right,
Because then you could say, the FDA came in and found nothing.
right,
Right,
Right.
right. Or they found that it's corrected.
Yeah.
Or they found that it was minor, or something like that,
One of the items in the food code is that a copy of the last inspection must be available for anyone to look at. And that information is also, sometimes you'll find it behind a register on a wall, but that line to say, the most recent inspection is available to view, that information has to be public.
But is it online so I can, see, I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way of me, who I was thinking of going there for dinner, but I don't think so. Or, I'd like to go there, they're doing well. Is that anywhere I can look up online, or?
Not at this point. We are looking at some, I actually just had a meeting today with the company that handles the software that we used when we do our food inspections. And later on this year, by the summer, we'll be looking at a little bit of a redesign of that program, and there'll be a lot more availability for some being able to publish some of the information and having a lot more features available. And that very well may be part of it, to be able to have a click down on our website to say, if I want to go to Burger World, 138,000, or maybe I should go to 137,000
Right,
instead.
exactly. I'm just thinking that it would be nice to be able to go through and say, recent inspection results.
Yeah, I think that's something that we should really consider.
And all of our
Right,
records
yeah.
are a matter of public
I
records,
would say
so,
you can't hide them
But-
anyway.
No, you
Right,
can't hide them, but we'd like to
exactly.
get it more visible, so people could, like I said, if they went home on a Saturday night, they want to look up something. The town hall's closed, but let's look up.
Just look up, I love the idea of saying, on the website, there's a little pull-down menu that says recent inspections.
Nursing inspections,
And
right?
I type in, South Side, how did, and if they've been inspected lately, how
Yeah.
did they do?
Right, right.
You know.
No, that's very important. It is.
How much time do you spend in the public places? I mean, you think of, I joke around saying I trust Carla, and I do with my grandchildren's food, but the schools have to be inspected, don't they?
It's
Yes.
there, just like a regular food establishment. You
Can
know,
you shut down a cafeteria?
if we have to.
Yeah.
Carla would hurt you.
But with Carla, that wouldn't
It
happen.
wouldn't happen.
That wouldn't happen.
But I mean,
Yeah.
you have the same leverage over public.
Yes,
right, absolutely. Whether it's a school or a hospital or wherever they're serving food to the public.
Oh, I hadn't thought about the hospital.
The code still applies.
yeah.
Is there any difference really between them? I mean, when you think of a hospital cafeteria, a high school cafeteria,
Perhaps the hospital's not going to be, they're gonna probably, because you have individuals with compromised systems, you're not going to be, doing obviously sushi or anything that
Well, yeah,
has
the menu's gonna be
yeah,
limited.
right. But then with those different menus, you have different techniques and processes that have that ability to bring in the potential for foodborne illness. So, and that's where our job is, to making sure that those processes are handled correctly and that there is not that potential.
I'm going to take a risk and put you on the spot. Why should I recycle? I get a blue
Well-
bin, I get a gray bin.
Yeah, one of the things first, before that question is answered, is that when it comes to cost, if you remember, Albert, when we first started recycling back in the 90s, that was the savior.
We got money.
That was the savior. We had Foster Forbes here, they took all our glass, gave us close to $1,000 back then a month for the glass that was brought to them. Newspaper was valuable. Cardboard was even more valuable. We even got off our
And
price.
Milford newspaper was premium.
It was good, and like I said, it was our savior of why we could highly afford curbside pickup on the tax base, because again, a lot was being put into it through the recycling fees that we've been getting, and right now it's is it like $70 a ton for rubbish?
I think it's 80.
80, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say it's $80 a ton for your regular rubbish at curbside, and it's $110, $105
You see, and that's-
for
there's the dilemma I'm in.
recycling.
I'm sitting there with something in my hand, and I want to do the right thing.
Right.
And put it into the blue bin. But the minute I put it in the blue bin, I'm thinking, it's going to cost me $20 more a ton,
Right.
so it's costing the town more.
It's costing the town more to recycle.
And what I hear is, since China had that 5% rule
Right,
put in,
right.
they won't take our
They
recycle,
don't take it anymore.
so they burn it anyway.
And there's no more vendors. There's no more vendors to actually take the plastics in the newspapers and whatnot. And the inking process was very costly too for newspapers. They wanted to take all that ink and colored ink off so they can recycle the paper as blank.
So
you
now,
know.
how do you answer the question, man? Why should I recycle? If I put it in the blue bin, it's costing my town more, and it's not doing anything for the environment because they're burning it anyway. If I put it in the black bin, I feel bad.
And what's happening, like you just said, a lot of our recyclables are either putting in landfills or they're being
They're being treated as trash.
because something that can't be recyclable is waste. Whether it's glass or whether it's plastic or whether it's aluminum. Aluminum is very high, though. That's one of the stars of the recycling.
So how do you
material.
answer the question?
It's up, I would say, what, because of the environment?
Ultimately, there are uses and continuing to be uses for recyclable materials. And by putting it all in the waste stream, you are in, where we're looking at burning everything, you are still in the end affecting the environment by burning more
Right.
than what you would normally be burning. So, and also if there is if everybody stop recycling, the tonnage is that cost will go up.
And like she was saying too, there's still a market, slim market, there are recyclable materials that are still getting processed, but not
But
all
at
of
least
them.
you're giving me some hope that if I'm doing the right thing for my
Yeah.
conscience and putting it in the blue bin,
Yeah,
it may not be what I want it to be.
right, now, and it may
But-
change, look at how it changed in the past years, it was the star of the show. Now
But
it's not, it may
at
be the
least
star
there's some
again.
hope.
Yeah,
If I throw it in the gray bin, there's no hope at all. It's going
right,
into trash.
right, no hope whatsoever, right.
Because, it just kills me when I think, yeah, I'll put it in the blue bin, even though I know it's going to cost me more and it may end up being incinerated anyway.
Right, it is a dilemma, but there are, hopefully as, time goes on, we have technology changing and there will be more uses for our recyclable materials out there. We have to hope that,
Well,
There's-
at least if we put it in the blue bins, it gives some incentive, and you hope that good old American ingenuity will come up with ways.
At least some of it will be,
And today you're getting
Right.
some versus none.
none, right, exactly.
Well, welcome to Milford.
thank you very much.
Albert, I just want to mention one other thing that we're doing above and beyond our regular mandated responsibilities, is that we're also addressing substance abuse as well, because we feel as though that's a public health epidemic right now, through opiate use, alcohol use, and whatnot. And we're working with Amy Leone and whatnot, because we feel as though that, I think since President Nixon actually declared war on drugs over 50 some odd years ago, we're still having more people using opiates than there are tobacco today. We have more people dying of overdoses than we do of cancer. So again, it's something that we still need to address
And that-
as a public health, as a local public health.
And this gives us a reason to have you back in 6 months. We'll start with that topic.
Right, exactly, yeah,
Perfect.
right, because it's just getting started and we'll
So
have some
thank you
answers
for
for you.
picking up where everybody else has left off and pushing it forward.
It's my pleasure.
And Paul, for your 9th decade in.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you for
And
having
as
us.
always, to our 6 loyal viewers, may God bless, may tomorrow be a better day and a healthier day than today. Good night, all. Thanks for joining.
Good night.